we're there. So, we're recording, are we? So this is the episode we're now beginning it.
Yes, sir. Well, we can.
Hello. Oh, yes.
We don't have to begin now, but yes, I mean.
Well, I'll tell you what. We'll begin when I say hello and welcome to Talk of the Devil, and that will be the beginning. And you know it's the beginning because it says it's the beginning.
Yes, very true.
Yes, I'll do that now, shall I? Hello, and welcome to Talk of the Devil. We have a very special episode today brought to you by Lancaster University Comedy Institute, and Bale Rig FM are hosting us as well, which is very good of them. They're a very good society. Maybe you should join both societies. But the reason this week is so special is because something really, really significant has happened out in the world this week. And of course, you might be able to guess what it is. I will tell you what we are celebrating in our special edition today. That's right. Bernie Sanders wore some mittens. And now we're having a special edition about that. There was also an inauguration or something along those lines. I don't know anything about that. Actually, I'm joking. I do know about that. We're celebrating or commemorating, perhaps we are crying about this, that's up to you, we're politically neutral here, the inauguration of Joe Biden, the 46th president of the United States. And as a result, we're going to have a bit of a different episode this week. Indeed. To join me on our exciting journey into US politics, we have John! John, introduce yourself.
Hello, I am John. I don't have any mittens, but yes.
You don't have any mittens?
No.
Can Bakir, do you have any mittens?
I have gloves. You know, I like my gloves like I like my socks, with holes for my fingers and toes.
I'm not gonna ask any more about that. And George, we've got George. Do you have any mittens?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh dear. Well, that's just bad news. So we have John, Bakir, and George are our exciting and excited contestants today, and we're gonna start with a round that we've never played before. And the reason we've never played it before is because it wouldn't work on a regular basis. You'd run out of presidents. That's right. It's Guess the President. So I'm going to read out some extracts from presidential inauguration speeches of the past. And you've got a very simple job. You're going to guess which American president gave the speech that I'm reading an extract from. However, there is a small twist. In order to make things more accessible for the kids, I have taken the liberty of translating the extracts from formal, pretentious, sometimes old-fashioned politician talk into everyday, down-to-the-kids vernacular of the sort one might find on Twitter. I'm sure that won't be a problem. I'm sure you'll still be able to work out who the president is. So, yeah, I'm going to read out the extract, and you're going to guess which president it was. And if you get it right, you'll get points. Is that simple enough?
Yes.
Yes.
That is good. All
yes,
right.
Anyway, sorry, go.
Our first presidential extract, translated, is as follows. Ever since we've been grooving round here on Earth, only a few peeps have had to do a whole bunch of freedom fighting. I'm dead hyped to do that. I don't want to be anyone else. We just got to be our best selves. We got to have faith. We got to have that vibe. We've got the vibe. The vibe to light the world. So, my dudes, don't ask me to do stuff for you. Ask yourselves what stuff you can do for me. That's the extract. Are there any theories as to who could have said that?
Din. I don't know how I'm supposed to buzz in.
Yes, Bakir.
Okay, well, I'll be honest. I'm quite down with the kids, so it's pretty easy for me to translate this. I know what the kids are about. Is it young boy Kennedy?
Is it John F. Kennedy? Is that what you're asking? Does
And
anyone else have any other ideas, or do you agree with Bakir?
I should have said John F. Boy Kennedy. That would have been so much funnier.
I agree that it is young Johnny F. Boy, Kenny.
Well, you're very sure of yourselves. George, do you agree that it's John F. Kennedy?
I do agree. Yeah.
You do agree? You're all in agree. You realise that this means that even if you all got this right, it isn't going to help any of you. If you actually, if you said it was someone completely different, then maybe you could get ahead.
I would like to clarify that at this point in time, John and George are riding my tailcoats.
Well,
yeah.
It was your choice to buzz in first, Bakir. You could have let them go off on the wrong track, but as it stands, you were right. It is John F. Kennedy.
Yay, nothing changes.
Nothing changes. So, of course, the original quote, I won't read out the whole thing, but it did include, "My fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country." That was the bit that I thought you might pick up on, maybe.
Yes.
So that was the first one. Now we're going on to the second president, but that doesn't mean that they're chronologically afterwards necessarily. It's a mystery. So here is our extract. It might be a bit harder. We shall see. It's a whole new era, dudes. We're going to go to space.
Barack Obama.
We're going to conquer disease. We're going to go back to the future. We got to be proud of who we are. We got to look up to the sky. We got to come together as one big family. If you poke a soldier with a knife, it turns out that no matter what color their skin is, their blood is always red. Crazy. Just goes to show, doesn't it? And our flag has loads of stars on it. It's so cool. Just like the sky, which everyone can see, whether they're in a city or the middle of nowhere. Light pollution, never heard of it. We all got a dream and we all breathe air. Wow, man. God is just so big, you know?
I think it's
that was the extract.
I think it's Barack Obama, but Tristan, you forgot to make it translate it. You...
Is it Barack Obama? Does anyone else have any thoughts?
Going to the look to the skies thing, kind of spacey vibes. I know the moon landings were under Nixon, so I'm going to take a stab in the dark at Mr. Richard Nixon.
Yeah, I'm not sure why. John, if you don't mind me asking, why did you go for Obama?
Actually, to be honest, I don't go for Obama. I was just trying to make that joke about Obama.
I apologize for ruining your middle setup.
So, John and Vicky.
Well, I feel like the space race is right, like, and also I feel like the disease thing was probably something to do with like the AIDS crisis, maybe. But I don't know when any of that happened. So I think in a classic this episode of Talk to the Devil fashion, I'm going to follow George's lead and go for Nixon.
So you're both going for Nixon. John, are you going to go for Nixon or Obama or someone else entirely?
Okay, I think the AIDS crisis. Well, now I think about it, I don't. Was AIDS a worldwide thing? No, of course it was. But I was just wondering, did it hit America? But I mean, I guess it must have. I don't know much.
In fact, it began in America, I believe.
Oh wow! Oh gosh!
Or that was where it was first detected. That's just a fun fact. It doesn't mean it's relevant, but it might.
Yes. Okay, but what year did it begin in America? I don't
I'm
think.
not telling you that.
Imagine.
I don't think it began in Nixon's era, because I think Nixon's era was late 60s to early 70s, and I think AIDS was 80s. So I'm going to say that this was the inaugural speech of George H.W. Bush.
Interesting idea. So two of you are going for Nixon, and John is going for Bush Senior.
Yes.
All right. Well, the truth is, in fact, you're all wrong. And I think you'll be surprised by who it actually was.
Is it Kennedy again? I swear to God, Tristan. It better not be Kennedy again.
It's not Kennedy again. It's Donald Trump.
What?
It's Donald Trump.
There were no Muslims or
I'll tell you what. It would have been even more confusing if I hadn't translated away the bit where he says, "We stand at the birth of a new millennium." Because that was a while ago, frankly. But yeah, he talks about space quite a lot, and he talks about disease, and he talks about flags and the sky. It's a very interesting speech. I've never watched the speech before now. So that's who it was, and you were all wrong.
That didn't surprise me. There's this one clip of Trump talking about Hurricane Florence, or Storm Florence, I think. And he's like, this is one of the wettest we've seen from the standpoint of water. I'm glad, like a lot of presidents, they wouldn't take how water felt into account. They'd have neglected that. But my man Donald J, he cared.
So, if you're interested in the AIDS crisis on a slightly off-piste note, but this is relevant and topical, there's a brand new TV show on Channel 4 called It's a Sin, and it's by Russell T Davies, and it's all about that particular period in time. So if you or any of our listeners are interested in that, it's not a comedy show. I should be clear. It's very serious, actually. But it's a thing. Anyways, we will move on to our next presidential speech. See if you can guess which president said this thing. Pals and non-pals. Well, I'm becoming president, I guess. Thanks, lads. Not gonna lie, I'm not gonna be very good at this. Probably gonna mess up, to be honest. Feeling pretty anxious about the whole thing. Luckily, I'm not gonna have that much power, right? Right? Well, I guess this is a big country, but still, we can totally go over the water to other places and flog stuff, probably. A whole lot of hope round here, it's good to see. Might use it to make the country bigger, but I'll avoid mentioning the fact that might involve killing some people, maybe. No. I'm overthinking this. Just gotta get on with it, I guess. Which president said something like that?
This is weird. Because he said, I'm not going to be very good at this. Or he said something.
Translate it.
Well, I mean, if you but the sentiment must have still been the same. Like,
Yes.
He was. It's very strange for a president to talk about his own lack of confidence in his presidency in his inaugural address. So what could the circumstances have been for that?
The bit that I'm thinking about is I'm not going to have much power, and that's sort of what he checks and balances on presidential power. So my thoughts are it's going to be quite an early one, maybe one of the establishing presidents who sort of wrote the whole thing up.
I'm thinking about the fact he said, maybe take more land. And I feel like that would have had to be early on. Do you know what I mean?
That as well, yeah.
But like, I know like Manifest Destiny was like a while ago, but that's like my best Yes, but
Yes.
So you all reckon it's a pretty old president. Do you know any old presidents?
yeah, there was that Washington. No, George Washington.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, Madison.
Oh yes.
Um,
Alexander Hamilton.
I'm also thinking maybe Roosevelt.
Ooh.
I don't know why. It strikes me as something he'd do. Well, I'm probably not going to be good at this.
Gosh. Was he well which Roosevelt? Because there were two. Would it be the Franklin Roosevelt or Theodore Roosevelt?
I'll go for Theodore.
Right. Right. I mean, I feel like America might still have been expanding in the what was it, the early 1900s when Theodore Roosevelt was president.
I think Theodore Roosevelt. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that sounds accurate. But I feel like America was completely owning America by the time of like World War One, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Probably, yes. Yeah.
I'm gonna say George Washington,
Ooh.
the original president, because no one's ever done it before. You don't know how good you're going to be because you've got no one to compare yourself to, so you might not be that good. You're going to be quite imperialistic, so you're going to want to go take some land for the boys. Yeah, Washington is my answer.
I don't know. He said he wants to go across the sea, but I know like the first few presidents were very like isolationist, right? They were expansionists, but they didn't want anyone. They didn't want to like go to Europe. Europe come to them.
Interesting.
I'm gonna go for like. I don't know how obscure the presidents Tristan has done a choose are.
Well, I'm not expecting you to be experts on American history.
Yeah.
Are we reading too deep into this then?
I think George Washington is a good guess.
So George and Bakir, you both seem to be leaning towards George Washington.
Yes.
Yeah.
And John, do you?
I'm gonna go with George Washington as well, and that's
You're
because
all going with George Washington.
yes.
John didn't want to be left out.
Well, yeah, because I mean, at least because I've got no clue. So if we all get it wrong, then I don't fall behind, and if we all get it right, then I don't fall behind. So it's all Gucci. So yes.
Fair enough. Well, I will tell you whether you're all right or whether you're not. The answer is you are all wrong.
Oh.
It was, in fact, Thomas Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson was the third president, but he was the first president to give an inauguration speech of the kind that we understand today. So he was feeling pretty anxious when he became president in 1801. That's when the speech dates back to.
Yeah.
And I left you some clues and you picked up on them. Well done. As far as American expansion is concerned, I think if you looked into it, you'd find that by around 1900, before Teddy Roosevelt turned up on the scene, America was pretty much as big as it was going to be. In fact, it was already there a few decades earlier. But I'm not expecting you to be experts, as I say. I'm the one who's done all of the research, not you. So, also I'm doing a history degree, so I have an unfair advantage. And I'm going to do one more presidential speech extract, and hopefully you'll be able to get this one, but maybe you won't. It might be tricky. We shall see. The extract goes like this. From my perspective, today is a pretty big deal. But for all you kids, I guess it's pretty normal. Every few years, some new and, in some cases, extremely cool, handsome, and non-evil dude comes along to get unlimited power without any jewels or whatever, and nobody bothers to think about how amazingly weird that is. For us, it's normal, but really it's like some magic or something. Oh, hey, it's the old president. Thanks, dude. I'm glad I'm the president now and not you, but it was still cool of you to come or whatever. Really shows how we're not so different, apart from the fact that we hate each other's guts. That was the extract. What was the president?
Gosh.
Whoever that was a very cool guy. Okay, that's definitely for sure. He referenced duels, so I'm going to take that and put it a little ways back.
It may be that the reference to Jules was me and not the president.
Fair enough. He called himself a cool and handsome dude. I feel like that would have at least had to come from somewhere.
I mean, it may be that was also some window dressing, but who am I to say?
The guy that did it, Tristan! You're the guy that did it!
Gosh. So, what presidents succeeded presidents whom they really hated?
That's a good question to be asking. Good line of thought there.
Well, I mean, I don't think Obama really hated Bush, but maybe he didn't say in the original speech, in the non-translated speech, how much he hated Bush's guts. Maybe he was just, very polite to him in the original speech. So
maybe. I'm thinking I feel like Reagan is a good choice because I feel like he'd call himself handsome, and Carter was a Democrat, so I feel like that makes sense.
Yeah. I might go.
George, do you have any thoughts?
No, I'm afraid not.
I'm gonna go. Wait, no, I'm not gonna go for Reagan. I feel like it's too late. It sounded like whatever you translated would have had to be like little oldie timies.
There are 46 to choose from.
I think Reagan's a good bet, so I'm going to go with Reagan.
Fair enough. John, do you have a one you're going to go for?
Well, I'm tempted to go with Reagan just so that I can hopefully not fall behind again by just going with what other people are going. But not sure.
I'm gonna go for Teddy Roosevelt.
Ooh, interesting. So Bakir's going for Teddy Roosevelt. George is going for Ronald Reagan. John, you're going to have to make a decision.
Winston Churchill.
I don't think it was Winston Churchill. Just a hunch there.
I'm going for Reagan. Yes.
Fair enough. I mean, look at it this way: as long as you pick one, you've just got a 1 in 46 chance of being right, and that is more than 2%. The answer is, in fact, Ronald Reagan.
Wait.
Yeah.
So Bakir, who came up with the idea, has managed to lose the point.
Well, I'll be honest. After George said Ronald Reagan, I felt like I couldn't go back to Ronald Reagan. I felt embarrassed.
Well, there you go. It's a tight set of points in that there's Bakir is 1 point behind. And they've all managed to guess at least one president, so that was good. Well done. That brings us to the end of Guess the President. I doubt that this game will be appearing again because it's not usually very interesting to talk about presidents, but we're all excited this week, or at least I am, and I'm in charge. So we're going to go to our first song break soon, but first I have a creative challenge for you. Now, you've heard from some of the great orators of history, some of the former presidents. Now it is time for you to learn from them. you are going to be kicking off your own imaginary presidential campaign. And to begin this, you are going to create a short and snappy slogan for your campaign. It's got to appeal broadly. It's got to be accessible and meaningful and define your campaign. And it's got to be nice and short. And that's what you're going to be thinking about during the song break. And then you will share your slogans. And whoever has the best slogan, in my opinion, will get points. So that is your first creative challenge. And is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yep.
Excellent. Our first song will be, and I should clarify that our song breaks are not just random songs. They may feel that way sometimes, but there's something very special about the 3 songs we're going to be hearing today. They link to something in the news this week. What could it be? That's what you're going to be trying to work out, what the link between the song, the 3 songs, and the news is. And it might be the artist, it might be the title, it might be something in the lyrics. I am not going to tell you. You're going to try and work it out. But our first song is called Calling America, and it's by the Electric Light Orchestra.
Oh, cool.
So while we listen to that song, you're going to think about your slogans.
Sick. Talk to you all in a bit.
Yes.
See you later, Stratus.
That was Calling America by the Electric Light Orchestra, and it may hint at our story of the week, but I won't be asking you for your guesses just yet. We will allow you to keep thinking about that. But before we move on to anything else, we've got to hear your slogans. I'm very excited for this. So I'm going to ask John if you have a slogan that we can hear.
I have, yes. My slogan is, if I get in, I'll wax both my legs. I thought.
It's straight to the point. It sounds honest. It sounds like something that you could feasibly do. So that's quite an appealing slogan.
Thank you.
Well done, John. George, do you have a slogan?
I'm going to go for let's get America slim again.
Ooh.
Okay. Well, I'm noticing a common theme of sorts across these slogans so far. But yes, you can't beat a twist on an old classic sometimes. That's a good one. And Bakir, do you have a slogan?
I do. In today's modern political world, especially in the US, Tristan, you're not just defining yourself, but you must define the other party in your view, right? So your slogan not only needs to uplift you, it needs to put down the other person. So my slogan would be, no, they can't. Jordan on yes, they can. Just no, they can't. Whatever the other team says they do, your chant is no, they can't. And completely derail anything they have to say.
I like that, Bakir. I think there's a lot of thought has gone into that, and ultimately it seems pretty infallible. I can say that. I feel like George and John, you've both got very good slogans, and they feel like something you could deliver on. But if someone challenges you, you're going to have to think of something completely new to say. But if someone challenges Bakir, he can just say his slogan again. So for that reason, I'm going to say Bakir has the best slogan and gets 2 extra points. Well done. Yes, 2 points. And if you think that's a lot of points, you have not seen anything yet.
Oh.
So we're going to move on to our next round, which is called Good Advice, Bad Advice, Terrible Advice. But this is a very special edition of this game. It's the presidential edition. In this game, you will be given a problem, and one of you will give good advice to solve the problem. One of you will give bad advice, and one of you will give terrible advice. And on this occasion, these are not ordinary everyday problems. These are problems being faced by presidents of the United States based on real life. These are historical presidential problems. So we'll see how well your solutions line up with what people actually did, I suppose. But the key thing is to make sure that you treat it like any other game of good advice, bad advice, terrible advice, and give your advice. So first, I'm going to have John, you're going to give good advice. Bakir, you're going to give bad advice. And George, you're going to give terrible advice for the first problem. Is that all good?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Wonderful. So our first presidential problem. It's possible that I may have robbed my political opponents and then been caught. Everyone is very cross with me, and I don't know what to do. Please help me. That is your problem that a former president may have found themselves embroiled in. John, do you have any good advice for solving that?
Well, you need to be honest. Honesty is the best policy. You need to own up to what you've done, for that is simply the right thing to do. And then just return your focus to doing what is best for the country. But if your popularity is so low that the members of Congress will simply not want to cooperate with you on anything, then you have no choice but to resign. So yes.
Mm-hmm. A lot of gravity to that advice, John. It's almost like you were around at the time. But kid, do you have any advice that's a bit worse than that advice?
Absolutely. You see, Tristan, remorse is for a weak man, because remorse means you've done something wrong. You need to cement yourself that what you did was right. So perhaps, for example, justifying it, you can use religion for that. That's great. You rob them again if you need to, But whatever you do not show guilt, because that means you did something wrong.
Well, that's very interesting advice. I wonder how the tides of history would have been different if it had been taken. And George, I think you're going to have to come up with something even worse, although that did sound like pretty sensible advice to me in some ways. Do you have any terrible advice, George?
I mean, I think the only thing and the best thing to do in this situation is kick up a scandal elsewhere. Maybe go and have sex with someone's missus from the opposition. Just get a sex scandal on the go. Hire a prostitute. Get that in the papers instead. And then, I mean, what are people going to be more interested in? Monetary fraud or who's been banging who? It's a clear winner. What people are going to want to read about. You're on the clear on the fraud charges and the theft. You're fine.
That's probably would work, but I obviously would never condone any president doing that myself. So we've had some good, bad, and terrible advice, and in this show, I choose a winner out of the three who gave the most appropriate advice, and I'm going to say that my winner on that round was Bakir, because I felt that advice was very, very intelligently put across. I like the idea of just refusing to show remorse. That's very good. I think it could work in any situation, really.
It is. I should lie. It's a little bit of plagiarism. I completely based it on the entire Trump administration.
That happens a lot. So we'll move on to our second piece of presidential advice. This time, George, you're going to be good advice. John, you'll be bad advice. And Bakir, you will be terrible advice. Here's the problem.
Awesome.
I've just lost the election, so I'm supposed to leave the White House after only one term and be replaced by someone I hate. But I don't want to. This is a disaster. What should I do? George, what should they do?
Well, the obvious thing is to incite a riot. That's the most sensible thing to do and the most sort of humane, trustworthy, legitimate thing to do. Call some people names, and in the meantime, I would get a moving company in just to box things up, just in case you do have to move out.
Yeah, very, very sensible, covering all bases there. And John, do you have any bad advice? Because of course that was very sage and wise advice.
Well, what you want to do, you want to board up. You want to make it impossible for anyone to get you out of the White House. So you want to board up all the windows. You want to post armed guards at the door of the White House. If you can't do that, then you'll just have to ask your family members to take up arms and shoot anyone on sight who tries to get in. Sorry, young Baron Trump, but Daddy's got to stay in the White House. So yeah. And maybe launch a few missiles at anyone who tries to take you away. So yes, that is my advice.
Okay, well, this has escalated pretty quickly. I dread to think what Bakir's terrible advice is going to be, but we've got to hear it.
Don't worry, it's bad. Or should I say terrible? Okay, so who doesn't have to leave office? A wartime president, right? Now, now, which countries, like America, has had elections during different wars before, the Iraq War, for example. So the opponent needs to be strong enough to pose a threat, right? But also not so strong that they're going to nuke you, but you still need to do something to start it. Hear me out here. Right. We nuke Iran, a kind of strategic ally of Russia, right? So then we go to war with Russia, right? And therefore, we don't have to leave office because we are in a war with possibly our greatest enemy. At the same time, just release another pandemic for good measure.
Wow. That is truly thought through everything there, I think. I liked all of these advices. I feel like they'll all be very pleasing to the president in question. I'm gonna say I'm sorry, but I've got to hand this to Bakir again because I think that there was a lot of creativity there in ensuring that this was such an infallible plan. So Bakir is shooting off ahead with all of this advice, but there's time for everyone else to catch up because we've got one more piece of advice we're going to ask for, and here it is. There's been a really, really big economic crash. Enormous. Nobody seems to have a job anymore. My opponents are telling me I should probably do something about it, but it all seems like a lot of bother to me. What would you have me do? That's a question from our former president. Well, you all know which advice you haven't given yet, but that's Bakir will be giving good advice. George, you've got to give bad advice, and John, you are going to give terrible advice. So we've got a great big economic crash. And Bakir, do you have any good advice on how to deal with this?
I do. So what I would do is what I think most presidents would do, which is firstly bail out the banks. Okay. That's it.
That's it.
Short and sweet.
Okay. Okay, well, that's an approach. Fair enough. It does happen. George, do you have any bad advice?
I think fundamentally America is built on the oppression of the minorities. If you get back to the land, now what we've done is by letting them come into the country and whatnot, we've got this reserve of scapegoats. Just blame it. Because they're a minority, they haven't got the power to stand up against it, have they? What are they going to do? A little moan, have some Instagram stories put up, and that's that. End of the day, blame a minority in a good old-fashioned American way.
Very, very sage. I mean, you're right. That is indeed the traditional approach, and Bakir, you seem to have been broken.
It's not like as we normally oppress minorities. What a way to start.
Okay, well, I hope you have a successful recovery, Bakir.
Thank you very much.
In the meantime, John, do you have any terrible advice?
I do. The biggest economic crash that America has ever suffered was the Great Depression. Now, what's the key word in that? Depression. So, what do we need to do? We need to make sure that we don't feel depressed in this economic crisis. So that means lots and lots of antidepressant pills. So just the stock market is crashing, have another antidepressant pill. It's crashing more, more antidepressant pills. It's crashing more cocaine. If anything, at least this will boost the both the pharmaceutical market and also the drug market. So a win-win. Thank you very much.
I mean, that's very, very sensible of you, John. I think that might be too sensible for terrible advice. It would actually boost the markets. And when this did happen, in real life, the depression took place. The opportunity was taken to end the criminalization of alcohol, which is very much similar to your idea, really.
Oh, no.
So I'm afraid that your advice is simply too sensible there, as ridiculous as it may seem. I'm going to give the point on this one to George because that was infallible advice. Really, it always works, and I'm sure it always will. So, I hope it won't. It would be nice if it didn't. But there we go. This is satire. So, also on the subject of something George said, it inadvertently played into my plans, which are your next creative question, which you're going to think about during the song break that is coming in just a moment. Your creative question is again about your presidential campaign. You are in the midst of your campaign. You've thought about all of these things that previous presidents have struggled with, and you've worked out what you would do differently. But before you can become president, you have to win against your opponent. And you've decided to take George's advice from earlier and start a scandal for the opponent. You've got to stir up the idea of a big scandal, leak something to the press, hope that it's going to blow up. So your challenge is to work out what scandal you're going to invent that is going to give you a surefire path to the presidency. And whoever has the best scandal will get points. So you start thinking about that. And in the meantime, we will have our next song break. And the song we will be listening to is called Mercy, Mercy Me, The Ecology by Marvin Gaye. I wonder how that could factor into anything that's been going on this week.
Interesting.
Indeed.
Okie dokie. Cool beans.
Whoa, oh, mercy, mercy me.
That was Mercy, Mercy Me, but The Ecology by Marvin Gaye. And from our perspective, that was 12 minutes long. But when you're listening at home, hopefully it will have been a lot shorter, especially because the traditional version of that song on Marvin Gaye's iconic album What's Going On is only 3 minutes and 16 seconds. So I don't know what happened there, but you've had plenty of time to think of a scandal to start against your presidential opponent, for that is what I asked you to do 12 minutes ago. I hope that you've all got good ones by now. So I'm going to ask Bakir first. Bakir, do you have a scandal?
I do. I would like to preface this by saying that was a great song. Anyway, what the thing is, a lot of scandals nowadays, they have to be different. You can't have the whole "he had a mistress" scandal. That didn't work with the last president. It's not a scandal anymore. You need to go for something that really hits people in the feels. And I was thinking about this, and I thought, what if you said that a president didn't like babies? And a lot of people don't like babies, like I'm one of them as well. So, I mean, honestly, they're just so small and loud, and you're not allowed to kick them, and that's just the worst. But everybody likes dogs, right? What are the best dogs? Puppies. So I would spread misinformation about my opponent that he didn't like puppies.
Yeah.
Or he did blackface, one or the other.
Fair enough. That's a very reasonable scandal, I think.
Hard for them to disprove as well, because
that's true.
Yes, they can't.
They can't just say, "I do like puppies," but how do you know? You could be lying.
Exactly. Yes. Perfect.
George, do you have a scandal? We're moving through all the scandals now. You there, George?
I do. I would put forward the scandal that my opponent. Hello?
Oh dear.
George has momentarily disappeared, but I'm sure he'll be back.
Oh, he is?
He's back.
Can you hear us?
George? Oh dear.
He's been eaten by the internet.
Hello?
Yo.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, fantastic. I'm back.
Wonderful. Do you have a scandal to share with us?
I do. My scandal would be that my opponent has the clap. Because they can't look after their own todger, let alone the country. And the classic kind of promo pictures of shaking hands and kissing babies, and nobody is going to want their baby kissed by a man who has the clap.
Very true.
That's very very thoughtful one there. And John, do you have a scandal?
I do. So what I thought you'd do is you'd combine all of the previous presidential scandals into one. And so what you'd have is I'd spread the word that my opponent had been bugging the Democratic Party HQ. If they're a Democrat themselves, your opponent, then just hope that nobody notices. They've been bugging the Democratic HQ. They paid for all the bugging with money from the Russian government, but you can't prove any of this, however, because all of the emails of correspondence between them and the Russian government was sent from a private email server. They were having sexual relations with the interns at the same time. And then just make it just to round it all off, make the bugging even worse. Say that they filled the Democratic HQ with actual bugs, not just technological ones. You know. Yes.
Well,
And
that is very creative. I like that, John. I feel like, any one of these scandals might not quite pack the punch that they once did. But if you put them all together like that and you add insects, then it's just a recipe for success. So I'm going to give you the point there, John.
Yes.
You're getting an extra 2 points for that creative answer.
Yes.
And before we move on, I'm going to ask you whether you have any idea what the story of the week that relates to the songs we've been hearing could be. I'll remind you of what the songs were. We've had Calling America by ELO and Mercy, Mercy Me, The Ecology by Marvin Gaye. Any idea what could possibly connect those two songs?
No idea.
I've got a small inkling. But I'm wondering if I should say it now.
I think
I have the same issue, John, which means we might know, but we definitely know that George doesn't, unless he's played an even longer game than us.
Well,
George, you son of a gun, tell me your secrets.
If you can get it right now, I'll give you 3 points. But if you get it right later, I'll give you 2 points.
Is it to do with Biden putting a hole on Trump's pipeline and other environmentally damaging, like I don't know what you call them, like edicts or whatever? He's basically said that he'll put a hole on them and review them.
Well, I'll tell you what, you are very much on the right track. So I'm going to give you a point now. And
Yes.
If you can be even more specific after you've heard the last song, then maybe you'll get even more points. But yes, it is to do with Joe Biden and his environmental promises. But
Is it the Paris Climate
he's
Accord?
rejoining the Paris Climate Agreement.
it's not about the Paris Accord specifically, and I'm going to stop this conversation now before you eliminate every option. I suspect that the last song will very much clear up what it is specifically. But well done, Bakir, on getting the theme in broad terms. And while you were theorizing on that, I'm pleased to tell you that you have all won the presidency. That's right. Your scandals and slogans have worked. You are victorious. And very soon, very, very soon, in about 3 minutes' time, in fact, you're going to be inaugurated. But
3 to 12.
But before you can be inaugurated, you've got to write a speech for your inauguration. You're each going to be coming up with a speech now that you have been elected to the high office of president, defeating your foe and bringing your party to power in a blaze of glory. There's a very many things that people want to hear about in your speeches. In fact, I have made a list of 46 things that people want to know about. Why 46, you ask? Well, because there have been 46 presidents so far, and so it seemed like the right number. But so what you're going to do is you're going to create a speech during the next song break, but I'm going to give you 3 things to talk about in your speech. And these things are going to be decided based on which numbers you give me. You're each going to come up with 3 numbers. Now, if you want, you can come up with 3 presidents, and I can affix a number to them because they each have a number, whether they were the first or the second or so forth. And then it will be the number 1 or 2. But it would be easier if you just came up with numbers, because otherwise I'd have to cross-reference between this Wikipedia page. But either way, it's fine.
Too late, Tristan. You gave me the option.
Well, I did give you the option. So I'm gonna give you three things, and the three things you're gonna think about how you're going to incorporate them into your speech. And when you give your speech, I'm going to be giving you many points, many points. There is a maximum of 15 points per speech. Now, to give a sense of perspective, the current leader of today's competition has 6 points.
Damn you, Bakir.
We don't know that for a fact, John. We don't know that for a fact.
It
Yeah,
is
we do.
Bakir.
Oh.
But anyways, it's pretty close, and it's going to be even closer when you've all had the chance to get a maximum of 15 points.
Oh my
And
God.
your speeches are going to be judged based on 4 criteria. And I'll tell you them again after the song break, but I'm going to tell you them first so that you can start thinking.
Sure.
The first is plausibility. It has to feel like a speech that might be given by an actual president. The second is gravity. You have to take the responsibility of the presidency seriously. The third is hilarity. It has to be funny and unexpected to listen to. Is that in conflict with number 2?
Yes.
Maybe, but I believe in you to achieve both. And the fourth and final criterion will be fitting the brief. That means that you're going to adequately address all 3 of the things that I tell you to talk about. So, you're now going to each choose 3 numbers or 3 presidents between 1 and 46. And I'm going to start with George. Do you have 3 numbers, George?
I'm a single man, so I'm going to go 1, 2, and 3.
I didn't hear that, sorry. Can you say that again?
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, and 3.
1, 2, and 3.
That's how it sounds.
Yes, please.
1, 2, and 3. Okay. You have to talk about your mandatory mittens policy,
Excellent.
the subject of your PhD, and yesterday's news. Those are all things you're going to have to address in your speech. Your mandatory mittens policy, the subject of your PhD, and yesterday's news. Did you hear that, George?
Ooh.
Yes, thank you.
I think you may be cutting out a little bit, George. If you leave and rejoin, maybe it will magically fix itself.
Yeah.
In the meantime, I'm going to ask. So, George, can you hear us now? Hello.
That's it.
I did hear, thank you.
You did. Brilliant. Well, you can start thinking about your speech. And John, can you give me 3 numbers or 3 presidents if you want to be tricky about things?
Don't worry, I'm not like that guy Bakir. But yeah, I mean I think he should lose a point for just being difficult, quite frankly.
I was offered. I didn't go out of my way to suggest it.
Well, anyway, okay, in that case I should gain a point for just being nicer then. But I'm going to go with 42, 33, and 17. Yes.
You're going for 42, 33, and 17. Let's have a look at what that gets you on my big list. Number 42, the former president I hate the most.
Oh, okay.
Ooh. Number 33, what my supporters should do now that I've won.
Right. Yep.
And 17, cake-related legislation.
Brilliant.
You got all of those?
I have. Yes, sir. Wonderful.
Excellent. Right. Bakir, can you give me 3 numbers or 3 presidents?
Okay. Ulysses S. Grant.
Okay, one moment. 1 moment! I'm going to have to find out his number. That is
Deduct
number 18.
points.
Number 18. Anyone else, Bakir?
Alvin Coolidge.
Coolidge.
Yes.
That's number 30. And
Franklin Pierce.
sorry?
Franklin Pierce.
Okay. That is number 14. So you've got 18, 30, and 14. And let's have a look on my big list what those mean. Number 30. Why I am rescinding my free ice cream promise. That might be a hard sell. Number 18. The candidate I defeated in the primaries. And number 14. My perfectly ordinary upbringing. You got all of those, Bakir?
Yep.
You have. Excellent. So,
Tristan, would you mind posting the list of things, the numbers and the corresponding subjects in the chat? Because I've forgotten what mine are already.
You've forgotten. Yes, I will do that in just a moment. But first, we're going to move on to the last song. If I'd known how long the previous song was going to be, in contrast to how short this song is, I would have done it the other way around. But I think the title of this next song is going to give away what the theme is of the week. So maybe not. But we'll listen to this song, and then I might give you a little bit of extra time to have a think. Our next song is by the Chantays, and it's called Pipeline.
Ooh.
I know.
Right. Okay.
It's almost
yes.
like it's a big clue.
I've got it.
Yes.
That was Pipeline by the Chantays, and I think it's a nice vibey song, and I've been enjoying grooving and moving to it, and I'm just trying to fill a bit of time because our three contestants are desperately plotting and planning their inauguration speeches. I think that Joe Biden and indeed even Donald Trump, whose inauguration speech was a bit weird, had a bit more time than this to plan their inauguration speeches. Sometimes you wouldn't know it, but all of the presidents have had time to think about these things, and indeed weeks in which to plan them. But in fact, our contestants today have won the presidency and been forced to give their inauguration speeches within an hour and a half of finding out that they were in fact running for president. So that was a pretty quick transfer of power. Maybe they'll find that power transfers away from them pretty quickly afterwards, too.
Ooh, some foreshadowing.
Sorry?
Ooh, some foreshadowing.
Well, I mean, it's not really foreshadowing. I'm just improvising here, Bakir. Here, Bakir. There we go. That was a funny joke that I ruined. So I'm going to ask you now whether you have any thoughts about the music rounds and what possible story they could all be connected to.
I do.
I do as
George?
well.
Indeed,
You
I
both
do.
do. Whoever can say it first wins.
It's by
the Keystone
Keystone tunnel, the whole thing that delivers oil from Canada.
Okay, so you both talked over each other, and I fully believe that you both knew it, because one of you said Keystone and one of you said Pipeline, and I believe in you. So yes, you're both getting 2 points. Well done, Bakir and George. Sorry, John, you were probably planning your speech, but that's okay. There's a lot more points on offer there than there are in this. You fools, Bakir and George, you got distracted by me. Yes, well, to expand on my song choices, Calling America is, of course, what Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada, did as soon as he found out that Joe Biden was going to scrap the permit for the Keystone XL oil pipeline, which was going to connect between Alberta in Canada and Nebraska in the USA. So the Trudeau, whose name I can't pronounce, was very upset about this, expressed disappointment at the decision, but it doesn't look like Joe Biden's going to go back on it. It's one of his first things he's done in office, so he's probably going to want to look like he's sticking to his guns, and decisions being taken after some years of attacks against the pipeline by environmentalists and Native American groups. So you might side with them, or you might side with the people who are already rich and would make even more money from the oil transportation.
Wow, Tristan, I wonder which opinion you hold.
We're a politically neutral and unbiased show and society. So actually, it's entirely up to you what opinion you're going to take. So there you go. That's all fun. Now we return to the top story, which is that the new president is going to give their inauguration speech, and also there are 3 of them for some reason. And the speeches are going to be judged based on the criteria of plausibility, gravity, hilarity, and fitting the brief. The latter of which, in the way that I phrased it, doesn't really fit the brief of ending with an E sound. But there you go. That's just how these things go. So George, I'm going to ask you to give your speech first, if you're ready.
Yeah, of course.
Lovely.
My fellow Americans, this is a new day for our nation. Well, the 24th of January to be exact. Now, moving forward, I declare we must all wear mittens from now on. I admit I didn't create this policy alone, but I did have a big hand in it. Thank you. The main reason for this is to help curb the spread of the virus. By wearing mittens, your hands will remain clean, unlike those of my opponent in the election, who, as you all know, has the clap, dirty sex. I have good knowledge of this subject, as the clap was the subject of my PhD, and the knowledge gained in my studies is good in helping with how this virus spreads. So I implore you to listen to me. Now, yesterday's news was very disturbing, and the new variant of the virus will shrivel up your todger like a raisin, much like my opponents. So we really must wear mittens to stop this awful plight on our health. Thank you.
Well, that was a good speech. Thank you very much, President George. So now I'm going to arbitrarily assign a numerical value to it, for the simple reason that there has to be a winner at the end, even though there's no prize. So I'm going to say you fit the brief completely. You got in all 3 of the things I asked you to, and they all felt pretty well integrated. I mean, doing a PhD on the clap was unusual, but I'm sure people have done it, so that's entirely plausible. Which brings me on to plausibility. I think it mostly felt plausible, I think, but I don't think that a president would necessarily attack their opponent again in their inauguration speech. So I think that I'm going to knock off a point for that, even though it was funny. And that brings me on to hilarity, which was actually very well done in that you got some jokes in without seeming too absurd. But I think you could have maybe added some more jokes in, even more jokes. But obviously it was all done in the moment, and I'm judging much more harshly than I probably should be. I know I wouldn't be able to do a very good job, but as I say, I'm in charge. In terms of gravity, there was a lot of gravity with this stuff about the disease, and then you started talking about the clap and stuff. So mixed bag. I'm going to say mixed bag on gravity, but it was a very enjoyable speech. So, out of a maximum of 15 points, I am going to give you 10 points.
Thank you very
10
much.
points. Let's see if anyone else can do even better or whether you're going to overshadow everyone. It was a very strong start. So, next up, Bakir. Bakir, do you have a speech for us?
I do. My fellow Americans and those just visiting, it's important for the unity of our nation that we work with those that we disagree with. Take that guy I defeated in the primaries, John Lee. Sure, he may be a weirdo and pro-drug use, but we can still work together to make America better. Discussion is the foundation of democracy, like foundation is the foundation of a house. Now, you might ask my personal opinions on John Lee. He was hella weird, not gonna lie, but that's not my professional opinion of him. Speaking of which, I just came from a call with some of my colleagues, and unfortunately, I have to rescind my free ice cream promise. I know I promised all Americans free ice cream on my birthday, but my birthday is also on Christmas, and it feels like that's a little much. And as a nation, we can't afford the free healthcare. We can't afford the free ice cream. That is my bad. But we should also, I believe, work together to make ice cream cheaper and healthcare more affordable, and Christmas more Christmassy. Now, some of my opponents, and I apologize for addressing this after my win, but some of my opponents have insulted my upbringing, saying, because let me tell you something, right? What's important when you grow up is that you are instilled with the morals of honesty and integrity and justice. The fact I was raised by bears did not take away from any of this. In fact, it only strengthened them. You've seen Brother Bear. You know how good that movie was. That directly influenced my environmental policy. Anyway, I'd like to say thank you and be Cinco de Mayo.
Well, I support the ascendancy of President Bakir, I must admit. Bakir, I'm going to say you definitely got all three of the elements I told you to in there, so you're getting all the points for that. That was very, very funny. It was very, very funny. That's the good news. I mean, maybe there was a trade-off there, but I'm giving you all the points for hilarity.
Nice.
Well done. Was this president treating it with the gravity that was appropriate? That's what I'm wondering about. I mean, no, you didn't. Basically, did you? You're not getting any points for gravity. I think. Sorry, but that's just life sometimes. But plausibility. I mean, it's a bit implausible that you were raised by bears. It's a bit surprising that it's happened. It's happened. It's true. I'd be surprised that they'd let you run for president, but I'm gonna let that slide.
I was born on American soil. It just happened to be inhabited by bears.
Okay, so I believe that a president might believe all of these things in their heart. I'd be surprised if they said all of them out loud, but I'm not going to give you no points for plausibility. I'm going to give you 1 or 2 points for plausibility, because I think that presidents are people too. So I'm going to give you a total of 8 points.
Yay,
that's a very respectable score, and I'm being very harsh. And John is our final contestant to be inaugurated. John, take it away.
We've gone through a lot of inaugurations, so that probably means Bakir's and George's presidencies have just been very, very short-lived, and
yeah, hopefully yours will be more successful.
Yes. My fellow Americans, now that we've got those two out of the way, I stand before you, a free man, and I would like to talk to you today about cake. More specifically, the rules that we have around cake. Now, I've been thinking for a long time, and I think one cake comes to my mind specifically for a potential reason why this country has gone downhill so much, and that cake is the Victoria sponge. Yes. Why? I hear you ask. Why is the Victoria sponge so evil? I'll tell you. It's got Victoria in it. What kind of British loving nation are we that bakes cakes that have references to that English monarch? From now on, in my presidency, the Victoria sponge will be illegal to bake. Anything vaguely Victoria-ish or spongy. Now that we've got that out of the way, I would like to talk about my least favorite former president, George W. Why do I hate him so much? Well, you remember that time someone chucked a shoe at him? He didn't catch them. It would have been so fucking metal if he had caught them right in midair, but he didn't. He just ducked them. Every time I watch that YouTube video, I'm always filled with disappointment that he didn't do an epic 360 no-scope catch of those shoes. So now that we've got those two things out of the way, just my last subject. What do I want you to all do now? Well, ladies and gentlemen, I want you all to go home, bake a cake in the shape of a shoe, and throw it at George Bush. Make it a rock cake, so that it's extra hard. Thank you very much. I've been, and will continue to be, your president, John Lee. That's
Thank you, President John. Well, you hit the brief completely, and in fact tied it all together. The supporters bake the cakes. The former president gets a cake thrown at him. It's all connected. Everything is connected. So you're definitely getting all the points for fitting the brief. I might give you an extra point for hitting the brief even better than I thought anyone would.
Really good.
Yes, well done.
Sick.
I'm such a flexible host, and you're gonna get all the points for hilarity. I enjoyed it. It made me laugh, especially the bit where you told everyone to throw a cake at George Bush. I would join in.
Sure, many people would.
Now, is President John taking the high office of the presidency seriously enough?
Yes.
That's one thing I'm wondering, because with a lot of power comes a lot of responsibility, and it seems to me that you've decided to use this power to basically launch a bullying campaign against one man. You might say he deserves it, but I mean, I don't remember you mentioning war crimes. It was just failing to catch a shoe. So that might count against you. I don't know if banning cakes of a certain kind is necessarily the top priority either. But you had more gravity than Bakir, I think. So I'm going to give you a point for gravity anyway. And plausibility. I can imagine a president giving a speech like this. So I'm going to give you a couple of points for plausibility. Not all the points by any means. No. I'd be very disappointed if Joe Biden did give this speech. But in total, I'm giving you 11 points, John, for your speech. I know, shocking.
That's actually not gonna lie.
So that brings us to the final scores.
Sick.
Now, it's very close. I didn't engineer it to be so close. I just thought I'd throw that out there, that you've all basically done very well. There's only 1 point between the person who's won and the people who have come joint second. And the person who has won this week on Talk of the Devil, our inauguration and Mitten special, is Bakir.
Yes, it's my first talk of the devil win. Yes, I always
Well
come
done.
second. Yes.
Well, you win nothing. There is no prize.
No, you don't understand, Tristan. I have pride now.
Oh, good. That's good. I'm glad. So this has been Talk of the Devil. I've been your host, Tristan Selvage. We have had John, George, and Bakir, our winner this week. And join the Lancaster University Comedy Institute. You can be on Talk of the Devil. You can join us to do improvised comedy, radio comedy, stand-up comedy, sketch comedy, all the comedies. It's the best society in Lancaster and probably the world. And you'd have learned more about that if anyone had bothered to choose the number 21 for their presidential speech, because that one was about why you should join Lucy, which you should. I know. But none of you picked 21, you cowards. You cowards. But there we go. That's the end of Talk of the Devil this week. Thank you for listening.
Bye-bye.
Guys, this was incredibly fun. I'll probably see you soon.
Hey.
Later, skaters.